For a long time now, Disney has taken the world's oldest and most messed up fairy tales and cleaned them up for modern audiences. Well, I'm having none of that. Today I want to do the exact opposite and reveal the very messed up origins behind their most beloved films. From Alice in Wonderland to The Little Mermaid to the ordinary demiguy himself, no one is safe. I've put together 10 of our most recent shorts on these movies for you to enjoy, with a little something extra. In case you didn't know, YouTube is the only platform that sets a 1-minute time limit on shorts, meaning that we always have to cut them down before posting here, and that unfortunately leads to some really interesting details and, dare I say, hilarious jokes being left out. So today I'm going to treat you to the extended versions of all of these shorts, which you can also find by following us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Links in the description. And now, without further ado, the messed up origins of Disney movies. If you like dogs and have ever had to deal with the death of one, the original ending of Fox and the Hound will leave you heartbroken. So remember how in the original movie, Amos Slade wants to take revenge on Todd for nearly killing his old hunting dog, Chief? Well, in the original story, Chief is the younger dog and actually dies when he's hit by the train. So the hunter makes it his life's mission to punish Todd. After spending the entire third act slaughtering Todd's mates and children whenever he starts a new family, the hunter does eventually get the better of Todd and kills him. But this isn't the happy ending he hoped for. The old, lonely hunter is ultimately forced to move into a nursing home where dogs aren't allowed. And since his trusty old copper is already approaching the end of his life, it's the hunter's job to finish it. In one of the most depressing endings you could have conceived, the master, while crying, takes his shotgun from the wall, leads Copper outside, gives him a few gentle pats, and tells him to lie down. He covers the dog's eyes while he trustingly licks his hand, and then... Do you remember that scene in the beginning of Tarzan where Kala's baby wanders away from her and ends up being killed by Sabur the leopard? Well, this scene was inspired by a scene in the original Tarzan story by Edgar Rice Burroughs, only that version is even darker. It opens with Kerchak, the leader of the apes, going on a rampage against his own tribe. He's just bashed in the skull of one of the females and is looking for his next victim when he sees Kala and her baby. He takes a mighty swing at them and they narrowly escape by leaping onto a nearby tree. But when Kala takes another leap, something terrible happens. Her poor baby loses its grip and falls 30 feet to the jungle floor below. She chased after it, of course, but by the time she reached her babe, it was already too late. She picked up its mangled, lifeless body and let out a cry of despair. And as if that isn't sad enough, she continues to carry her dead babe with her until they arrive at the cabin of Tarzan's family. Kerchak is determined to steal Tarzan's father's black stick of death, his gun, and rips out the man's throat. He then planned on giving baby Tarzan the same treatment, but Kala intervened and rescued him from their tyrannical ruler, almost identical to how she saved him from Sabur in the movie. Princess and the Frog is a genius movie, and I say that solely for the ingenious twist it made on the original fairy tale. If you haven't heard it, the original story follows a princess who drops her most prized possession, a golden ball, into a well, and a frog offers to retrieve it for her if she agrees to be his girlfriend. She accepts, then immediately runs away when she has what she wants, leaving the frog alone and heartbroken. Now I want you to think about the movie for a second. Similar to the princess's golden ball, Tiana's most prized possession is the restaurant she's supposed to take ownership of. And like the ball, it's also colored gold in her daydream, but she loses her bid for it at the last minute. Enter the Frog Prince. He tells Tiana that if she gives him a kiss and breaks the curse put on him, he'll give her all the money she wants for her restaurant. Exactly like how the frog in the story offered to retrieve her golden ball. The big difference here is that Tiana actually delivers on her end of the deal and kisses him, only to be cursed herself because she's not a real princess, only dressed like one. This causes her to become a frog, and she's forced to join the helplessly spoiled Prince Naveen in his quest to break the curse and become human. If If Disney stayed true to the OG Sleeping Beauty story, it would not be safe for children. You see, instead of a beautiful princess falling in love with a handsome prince and him rescuing her from an evil witch, we have a princess named Talia who was assaulted in her sleep by a king, which led to her getting pregnant and having twin babies. When the king's wife found out about his affair, you can be sure that she wasn't happy, and she wanted to punish this other woman, so she lured Talia into the castle under false pretenses, ordered her to strip naked, then told her guards to burn her at the stake. That's just about the most humiliating and painful way to die. But luckily, Talia had some smarts. She undressed herself as slowly as possible, which gave the king enough time to return to the castle and rescue her. When he found out what his wife had done, he played the old Uno reverse card and said, "Actually, how about we light you on fire instead? And while we're at it, anyone who helped you can die too." After that wrinkly old hag was reduced to ash, the king, his pretty young thing, and their two babies lived happily ever after. Here's something you probably didn't know about Cruella de Vil. You've probably always thought of Cruella de Vil as this pure evil monster who hates dogs, but that's only half the story. She also hates cats. You see, in the 101 Dalmatians book, we learn that Cruella also has a pet cat, a beautiful white Persian, that she openly admits she would drown if it weren't so valuable. But it gets worse. Later, she visits the Dearlys to see the new litter of Dalmatian puppies, and she is disgusted to see they have no spots, and insists the puppies are mongrels and must all be drowned. Naturally, the Dearlys are appalled by this and point out that Dalmatian puppies develop their spots as they mature, but even if they didn't, they certainly wouldn't drown them. To which Cruella responds, "Why not? It's really quite easy. I've drowned dozens and dozens of my cat's kittens because she always mates with an unworthy alley cat."
Any way you like, poison them, drown them, bash them in the head.
Did you get that? She has drowned not only dozens of kittens, but dozens and dozens of kittens. To me, that sounds like a minimum of 48 kittens. I guess that song Mr. Dearly sang about her was right. She's like a spider waiting for the kill. Look out for Cruella de Vil. Did you know that the Mad Hatter's insanity may be the result of a medical condition? Many of the characters Alice encounters in Wonderland were inspired by social trends, celebrities, and people that author Lewis Carroll encountered in real life. But the Mad Hatter's origins are just depressing. Because back in the Victorian era, workers in the textile industry were extremely susceptible to developing illnesses that affected the nervous system. These were partly a result of both starvation and working miserably long hours, but it was also because of their being exposed to dangerous chemicals like mercury. Mercury was the key ingredient that Victorian-era hat manufacturers used to stiffen felt, and when you hear the symptoms of mercury poisoning, you tell me what character they remind you of. Nervousness or anxiety, irritability or mood changes, memory problems, physical tremors, impaired motor skills, and slurred speech. So yeah, I'm pretty sure the Hatter had mercury poisoning, and even if he didn't, his behavior was almost definitely modeled off of people who did. Now admittedly, there are some symptoms that don't line up with his behavior, like excessive shyness and depression, so there's some people who dispute the claim, but I would imagine that every single symptom isn't going to be present in everyone who has it. Did you know that one of Maui's most well-known myths is about his death, and that he died violating the goddess of death? The story goes that Maui wanted to attain immortality, something he would have already if his father didn't mess up his baptism, and his genius plan for doing this was to reverse the birthing process on the goddess Hini Nui Tapur. He tracked down the goddess's home, quietly snuck inside, and turned into a worm while his brothers disguised themselves as birds and watched from the windowsill. Then, as he made his way into the goddess, his bird-brained brothers couldn't help cracking up at what they were seeing. The erratic chirps of 4 different birds startled her out of her slumber, but Maui was in too deep to take notice that she was awake. And just when he thought he made it inside and that his wildest dream was about to come true, the obsidian teeth that surrounded her fun tunnel crushed him to death. The goddess watched as the lower half of her assailant stumbled backwards and collapsed to the ground. But she didn't need to see his top half to figure out his identity. When she spotted the 4 birds with tear-filled eyes and the fishhook laying by his feet, she knew that she had just killed Maui, the hero to humankind. With the death of Maui, both he and we humans lost our chance to ever gain immortality, and the part that might shock you the most is that this is the story Disney used as inspiration for Maui's downfall in the opening scene of Moana. Only instead of Maui seeking eternal life for himself and mankind, he was after the power to create life. Had Disney followed the original Rapunzel story by the Grimm brothers, Flynn Rider's fate would have been even more painful. Remember how at the end of Tangled, Flynn almost dies when he climbs up Rapunzel's tower to rescue her and Mother Gothel stabs him in the back? But at the last minute, he's saved by Rapunzel's tears, which have healing powers? Well, at the end of the Grimm's version, the prince enters Rapunzel's tower and old lady Gothel reveals that his true love has been banished to the desert and he'll never find her. Heartbroken, the prince tries ending his own life by jumping out the tower window, only he survives and lands face first in a patch of thorny vines which poke out his eyes. He blindly wanders around the forest for years weeping for his lost love, but one day he hears the sound of her singing and tracks her down, only to find that she's given birth to twins. This means that Rapunzel had to give birth in the middle of the desert with no help from anyone and without knowing what pregnancy was or what the birth process was like. So that must have been pretty traumatizing. All her worries go out the door when she sees the prince, though. She embraces him with tears of joy running down her face, and 2 of her tears land in his eyes, which heal his blindness, similar to how she saves him in the movie. Did you know that in the original Beauty and the Beast story, Beauty almost kills the Beast? That's right, instead of Gaston stabbing him, Beauty is the one to blame. Much like in the movie, Beast allows Beauty to temporarily leave the castle to visit her family, but he tells her that if she's gone for longer than a week, he'll die of a broken heart. At home, she reunites with her wicked sisters and tells them about her life in the big castle, where she has her own apartment and fancy new dresses. So the sisters get really jealous and try sabotaging her relationship by convincing Beauty to stay with them longer than she promised. On her 10th day at home, Beauty had a nightmare where she saw the Beast dying of grief and realized in that moment that she couldn't live without him. She races back to the castle and finds her love unconscious on death's door, but she does manage to save him by pouring a bucket of water on his head and professing her love. At this moment, the palace started sparkling with lights, fireworks began going off, and out of nowhere, the Beast that Beauty fell in love with became a handsome prince, just like in the movie. Also similar to the movie, the prince explains he was cursed by a wicked fairy to become the Beast until a beautiful virgin consented to marry him. The Little Mermaid died in Hans Christian Andersen's original ending. Here's how it happens. Similar to the Disney movie, the prince is about to marry another woman, and as per the deal the mermaid made with the sea witch, this will cause her death. A terrifying fate considering mermaids don't have souls and therefore have no afterlife. In an attempt to save her, the mermaid sisters trade all of their hair to the sea witch in exchange for a magic knife that will turn her back into a mermaid. The catch is she has to stab the prince in the heart and let his blood drip onto her feet. Unable to kill the man she's in love with, the mermaid throws the knife overboard and jumps into the ocean, dissolving into sea foam. This version was never published though, and Andersen revised the ending so the mermaid essentially became an angel instead and earned her own soul by doing good deeds. And we're back. I hope you enjoyed those and learned a little something. Remember to comment which short was your favorite down below, and stay tuned for a full-length episode coming next week. The reason I posted a compilation this week is because I'm currently out of town taking a much-needed vacation with my lovely wife, Lauren, who actually edited all of the shorts that you've been watching for the past 6 months. Anyway, I'll see you all again next Thursday when we dive into some truly messed up Greek mythology. Until then, my name is Jon Solo, and remember, Jon shot first.